I'm here with Brian Klontz, who is one of the real experts on gifts of life insurance. He works both with insurance people, but also primarily with nonprofits on that topic. And he's written a number of articles about it. And Brian, I'd like to ask you some pretty point-blank questions.
Sure, I'll give you some point-blank answers.
Because we can save people, I think, a whole lot of trouble by giving them, a simple answer to, kind of a big question. Do you think gifts of life insurance are appropriate for a nonprofit?
I do. The plain vanilla life insurance where you've got let's say a younger donor who wants to be able to amplify that gift and participate in a bigger way. Perhaps you have a donor that says, I have a specific dollar amount for a specific program or fund. Maybe it's a scholarship fund that requires a specific amount, that I want to make sure that no matter when I die, that full amount will be funded and then my charitable intent is met. It can work quite well in those situations, absolutely.
So it's a simple thing. It's a simple idea.
It is.
It's not a glamorous idea. If you can get the life insurance agent to do it for you, it is probably a good thing.
Absolutely. Yep, that's right. And also with existing policies too, most of my practice on the appraisal side with insurance, I would say at least 75% are where someone had protection for business liquidity, estate liquidity, for family protection, back in maybe the 60s or 70s or 80s, and instead now that protection need is no longer there, to be able to contribute that policy to a charity makes a wonderful, wonderful gift. The charity can choose, of course, to surrender that policy, to reduce paid up, or continue paying premiums as appropriate.
And that gets us to the issue of service. I mean, being in the insurance business, an awful lot of it is selling it, but an awful lot is servicing it for a lifetime too.
Yes.
How important is servicing the existing block of charitable business? When a charity accepts 5, 10, 15, 20, 100 policies,
Right.
what is involved with that? How important is the service component in making the thing work out right?
Well, I would suggest more so than any other industry, the service is critical because most charities are not comfortable in the insurance space and are not knowledgeable in that space. So they're leaning on their advisor, broker, consultant more than any other industry. I would also suggest respectfully that this industry has not done a great job in the past around some service issues, and some charities have gotten some black eyes. So they're already particularly skittish about working with life insurance products and agents in this space, which then means it's even more important to be able to have appropriate design of the gift, of the case on the front end, and then service after the sale.
I couldn't agree more, actually. Generally, these are conversations about products. Would you agree, though, that an awful lot of this is also about the agent's process and the service that goes with it, the quality of the agent? In other words, you're not simply vetting a policy or an illustration, you're vetting the agent because you have a relationship with this person that could go on for decades.
Yeah, that's very true. And the insurance company as well, as you're well aware. And I think it's the quality of the agent, most importantly on the front end, really goes to the design of the product. Too often, the policies are purchased based on certain expectations, as we all know, and a thinly funded policy, as an example, with a product that may or may not make it 5 or 10 years is not going to be conducive for a charity that might only look at these every 3 to 5 years, if that. So more and more I can tell the quality of the agent and the carrier and the product designed on the front end usually takes care of 90% of the issues post-sale.
Right. And I think we all have an interest in, all of us who are trying to do the right thing, have an interest in using insurance when it's appropriate and not having people who go nuts with it do the wrong thing and give us all a bad reputation.
Right.
And in your essay, you talk about white hats and black hats, right? And we all have an interest to make sure the black hats don't get a footing in this, right? What are some of the marks of somebody who might be wearing a black hat or a black hat idea? What would you reject? I mean, you're talking about plain vanilla gifts of insurance are fine, and they can be, they're a good thing.
Right.
But what are some of the black hat things that can mess it up?
I think it's any time that the charity is being used for the insurable interest to otherwise place products that but for that insurable interest likely could not be placed. And to be blunt, where you have maybe 10 or 15 boxes and lots of flow charts and triplicate pages and legal opinions, that usually does not end well.
I agree.
And I think it gets back to donative intent, and what those donors were really trying to accomplish with their giving, and is insurance that vehicle or product that allows them to accomplish it, versus a arbitrage financial gaming of an insurable interest system or regime. Those are the cases that generally or thematically where the donor is trying to get something back, or the financial institutions are getting something back, or the agent is getting something back, and then the charities are left with crumbs if they're lucky, if the whole transaction works quite well.
So, right. So if it's done in a plain and simple, clear way with the appropriate people who want to give an existing policy or buy a new policy to kind of leverage their
Right.
gift, if it's serviced appropriately, if it's illustrated conservatively, all the plain vanilla things are fine. And I think we all have an interest in avoiding the gimmicks.
I would agree. And I would also encourage, strongly encourage, agents to think more broadly about the product, where it's not just working with the charity and working with their specific donors to be able to place products there, which may be appropriate in some situations, but working with their other 100, 200, 500 clients, that through the fact-finding and needs process, to say, now we understand what insurance is trying to protect for your family or your business or your estate, but let's have that extra discussion about what sort of charitable interests do you have that perhaps you would like to endow or perpetuate, and using the same vehicle to be able to add additional death benefit for that additional premium.
Right.
What do you think that does to persistency? What do you think that does for the actual relationship and value sort of
Right.
discussion that that agent has?
Right.
Too often I don't think that discussion occurs, and for some reason many agents think only with charitable planning can we place charitable insurance,
Right.
not with all of their other
Right.
clients as well.
Right. Well, you have in-depth knowledge of the insurance field and many, many people in it. Would you kind of concur with this, that it's like any other pyramid? At the bottom you find people who are just basically pushing product, and some good people doing good things doing that and making a decent living at it.
Yes.
But at the top you have people who've really morphed and evolved into being a key part of the estate planning team. They're working with very wealthy families who own farms and ranches and strip malls and businesses, all those complex assets. And for that kind of an agent, the real thing they can contribute to the charity, not just the occasional gift of insurance that comes up because the person's got an enforced policy, but being a key person at the table to make some of these more complex transactions happen that may not happen, but for the insurance, which may not be going to the charity. It could be buying
Yes.
illiquid assets from the estate. It could be a buy and sell arrangement. There's plenty of ways to sell insurance in those complex situations, and a gift can emerge based on the overall planning. So they're really doing capital transfer planning where charity's a beneficiary. That to me is the agent that is most likely to really hit it off with the charity long term and make it work, because they're adding a layer of expertise that charity may not have themselves.
Yeah, I would completely agree. It's not the one-trick pony, if you will, selling the charity's insurance for insurance sake. It's the holistic, comprehensive planning where insurance is that component that allows, as you suggest, all of these other pieces to fall appropriately.
Right.
And even to take that a step further, even with IRA planning, as many of the
Exactly.
advisors know, to be able to say if you need that IRA or that 403B or 401K, you can use that. But if you'd like to be able to leave that as your charitable legacy back and simply replace that with life
Exactly.
insurance,
Exactly.
these are simple ideas
Uh-huh.
that I don't see being used enough
Anywhere nearly enough, right?
anywhere.
Right.
And I think what I see a lot are the 15 permutations of the hyper
Of the gimmick,
complicated
of the gimmick.
structures,
Yeah,
of the
I
gimmicky
totally agree. And
things.
so to kind of summarize and try to be fair, I do know some really, really, really good life insurance agents who work with some excellent charities and do gifts of plain vanilla life insurance
Yes.
all day long, and they've serviced it for 20 years, and they're wonderful people.
Right.
I wish that was more common.
Right, I would agree.
And I know some very sophisticated insurance advisors do estate planning all day long with a charitable beneficiary involved. And those would be the two areas I would look for.
I would
you agree?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.